connecting, 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 connecting. Yeah. Oh, hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? It's Cherie from Big Notes Get Votes, and we are at the weekly Wednesday, 2 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time, Get Gig Fit Action Plan live, so that I can answer any questions that you had. You're a bit quiet, I have to say. Although this week, rather than questions, I've had a few funny comments. I've got it all outlined here, and I just want to go through it. Now, I know you're busy people, so I don't want to take up a lot of your time. But let me just say again, hello, how you doing? Hopefully you're in good health, vocally and otherwise. And I want to give you a little bit of a heads up of how we're going to roll things out today. So the point of these things is basically for us to, for me to be here to answer any questions that you've got, but also to reflect upon the daily tips that I've outlined in the Get Gig Fit Day action plan. Now, first, if you go to the link that is on the bignotesgetvotes.com homepage, you will see a little button that you can click to get this guy, which is what it looks like when you print it out. It's a little checklist divvied up into weeks, and this little bit at the top on the PDF is a live link to all the tutorial videos. Oh, hi guys, hi. To all the tutorial videos in their entirety, so it takes you a little bit deeper. And then this point is for me to just expand even further, because I'm always adding things on. You know, I'm always learning and trying to improve. And at the moment, I'm in the throes of a tour, which is teaching me a lot, because I'm kind of semi-retired as a singer, as a performer, and my full-time gig is vocal coaching and singing sessions. So it's quite an eye-opener, and I've added new things in and changed things. So this is the point. This is a chance for us to interact. So I'm watching, and if I see any questions come up, I will speak to them for sure. But for now, I just want to recap. So for starters, excuse my reading because my memory is not great, but we've gone through 11 days, which is amazing. We're almost at the halfway point. We've talked about vocal journaling. We've talked about setting yourself some singing goals, how to wake your voice up before you start speaking. And in the morning, we've talked about getting your body ready for singing and relaxing or releasing tension, which is the singer's enemy, with singer stretches. We've talked about speaking voice mindfulness. Hilariously, who I was going to give a shout out to is Onomer. You are the funniest person I know, I think, because we both know what it's like to use your Auntie Helen speaking voice. So I was actually going to talk about that today, and I'll get onto that in a second. We've talked about hydration plans, sleep strategies, vocal health check-ins, vocal range assessment, nutrition reviews, medication check-ins, and that's just to day 11. So there's a lot to cover, and I'm just going to go real quick through it, as well as make sure that if I reference any resources, yeah, Auntie Helen, resources or links, then I will pop them into this thread. If you're on Facebook, it'll be in the comments, or I will post it somewhere in the Instagram, but you know how to get it. And the same on YouTube, peoples who are watching live there. Welcome. Now, the main thing for this week is to just quickly touch base on the techniques for each segment. So we'll go back to the Auntie Helen, and if you're wondering what on earth that means, now here in New Zealand, we have a, what's up, Jessie? Here in New Zealand, we have had an amazing woman Prime Minister called Helen Clark. Now, she and a lot of women in power positions, let's say, that are usually dominated in a male-dominated industry, which there are many of, find the need to lower their tonality so that they have a little bit more gravitas, I think, and weighting to their voice. And it's a similar sonic environment or sonic sound that they might hear themselves in. And so I used to do this Helen Clark thing all the time. I would talk with quite a low voice. And what was happening is I would get to a gig, and I would usually be singing songs that are quite high, pop songs that are much higher above my sort of speaking tonality or range. And what would thanks. And what would end up happening is that the workload that I had by raising my larynx, just for that specific sort of 3-hour period, if I was doing a covers gigs, would really tire my larynx out, because you've got your larynx kind of dangles by ligaments and a few other bits and pieces. And so it's just moving like an elevator up and down depending on what coordination or position you're putting it in. So if it's kind of low like that all the time, and most of your singing is done in a higher range, even though it's a small way to travel, it is actually shortening and moving up all the time, and it gets really tired, it gets fatigue. So I was having to work so much harder, it wasn't as efficient a production of sound, and I learned to practice the tonality that I wanted to access more often or to strengthen it with my speaking voice. So that was the main hack. It's not just about mindfulness, but you can actually train your voice whilst you're not singing by using your speaking voice as the focus. So what I started doing was I started speaking a little bit lighter. I lightened my tone a little younger, and that strengthened that coordination. That was not only in the vocal range that I was using most often for my singing, but also it changed the coordination. Your vocal folds go a wee bit thinner when you are using a lighter quality, like falsetto or head voice, if you like. They're two different things in my book, and it gives you a chance to strengthen them. So that was a cool hack that I learned and made such a difference in my voice. Not only that, the fact that we're speaking so much more than we're actually singing on a day-to-day basis means that we also need to be very careful about how we utilize it. Yelling, loud laughter, my favorite was the I would do that one, and it would just tire my voice out unnecessarily before I got to the stage. So being careful about how you're speaking when you're in the club, I call it, and utilizing technique with your speaking voice makes a difference. So that's the speaking voice mindfulness. If you've got any questions about that, please just chuck them. I can see on Insta, and I've got my phone here, but if I miss your questions, I will come back to that and answer them in the comments. So really, honestly, speaking voice mindfulness is one of the things that just changed my voice so much, to the point now that when I'm tired and I go back to my Helen Clark speaking voice, my husband's like, "Whoa, are you all right?" So, I try to lighten things up and keep that nice balanced tonality. Or for you, it might be a case of some people speak kind of almost like a small child. And so to strengthen their tonality, they might need to add a little Helen Clark or a little sob quality or a little speech quality to their voice. So we use this technique in my coaching as well too, and primal sounds are a great way of playing around with and nurturing and strengthening your voice. So enough about that. Let's move on to the next thing that's super important. Of course, hydration. Now, I use a formula that is 0.03 times your approximate weight in kilos, and that'll churn out an amount in liters that is advised for you to drink. I don't want you to stress. You might be already having quite a bit of hydration from the food that you're eating. If you eat a lot of foods that have a high water content, maybe you drink a lot of non-caffeinated teas or sparkling water or something like that, you might be getting it not just from your straight ahead water consumption. But I do think it's mindful as a vocalist to aim towards that liter amount just with water. And then anything else is a bonus on the top, especially just jumping down the track a little bit. If you are taking any medications that can be quite drying, and we mentioned medication check this week, as well as if your nutrition isn't as good as it could be, it's a great way to just make sure that the baseline is there with the hydration. Now, you can add topical hydration, but we'll be talking about that in the coming weeks. You can, again, grab the Get Gig Fit 30-day action plan if you want to jump ahead, and you get a link to all the tutorials as well. So, next up, and I think I'm taking you through the steps or the checklist in the way I would with coaching. So I kind of laid the foundations that I think are the most important first. The three things that are super, super important are for me as a singer and a human: hydration and sleep and nutrition, being mindful of what you're fueling your body with. So we're talking about sleep for a second here. 7 to 9 hours, I think, again, that's just a general time frame. You really need to do what's right for you. But as a vocalist, from a voice perspective, that's when as a human, that's when all the rejuvenation happens, but particularly with your voice or any muscles. So there's lactic buildup that can happen in your larynx, just the same with any other muscle that you work out, say if you're at the gym. And you need time. You need a little bit of time, and you need sleep to be able to let that work its way out. So this is after high voice use. That can be long periods of speaking, that can be a gig, that can be practice, whatever high voice use looks like to you. So you really do need to sleep. Now, a side note, I read a great book called The Sleep Revolution by Arianna Huffington. And there's a study where they looked at how people who have had less than 6 hours of sleep over a 2-hour period, how they test. And they test as if they're actually clinically drunk. So that just freaks me out, because I used to get less than 6 hours sleep all the time. I know tons of industry people have trouble sleeping. And imagine, driving a car, let alone how your voice is feeling and not getting what it needs to kind of get back to ground zero. But yeah, it's tricky. So I really want to emphasize sleep, not only if you don't want to do this 100% with your voice's motivation, but for your creative mind, for allowing your body to be able to respond to your creative thoughts and to be able to keep stimulated and functioning well. It's as simple as that. Okay, so moving right along, the next thing, this is day 8, is the vocal health check-in. So what that means is I like to get my artists to use a vocal journal, which was day 1's tip. And the one that I've made is this one here. And it's a month's worth of like templated spaces for you to write down all sorts of things, practice plan, but specifically for me, how your voice is feeling in the morning when you wake up, how your voice is feeling in the evening before you go to bed, and after any high voice use. And we track that for a month just to see if there are any patterns that emerge. What we notice, especially women, throughout our menstrual cycle, things change, and we can add in or extend our warm-ups, add in workouts or extra kind of techniques that we can utilize to support our voice, or even just warm our voice up a bit longer if we're a bit clunky, depending on where we are in our cycle. Now, guys apparently have a cycle as well, but it's a 24-hour one. Good for you guys. And what happens is you just want to be mindful as well where the points in the day are that you might have a boost in testosterone, and you might need to be more mindful of how your voice is working and what you need to do to support it. So that's why tracking is good, because these are things that you don't remember. I can't even remember what I did yesterday most of the time. So if I'm not writing it down, it's really hard for me to track, and it's important. So next up, moving along, we've done the speaking voice mindfulness, we've done hydration, we've done sleep strategy, vocal health check-in, which I've just talked about. Next one is vocal range assessment. So we're starting to get into the real nuts and bolts. And the first step is finding out where you are. I think it's important that once you've laid these solid foundations to build upon, you know where you're starting. Now, your vocal range is the total scope of notes that you can, and the way I do it is the total scope of notes that you can make sound. So a squeak. So I find out the total scope, and then I whittle it down to about 8 to 12 notes, and I call that your sweet spot. That's generally where your voice is strongest, where you've strengthened the coordination through either focused practice or just natural. That's the natural strength, like maybe your speaking range, and you know how to utilize that zone. That is your sweet spot. That can be extended as you learn how to coordinate your voice in different ways, different recipes for your voice. But knowing that baseline just gives you freedom from quite a few different perspectives. From the perspective of knowing if a song is in the right key, so you're not going to stress your voice by trying to sing something that has a particular phrase that is over a transition point in your coordination, or a break as some people like to call it, which just stresses you out because you're like, oh, I can't sing it, it's too high. But really, it's just one particular point. And sometimes it's actually about taking the key up versus taking it down that can help you to get into your sweet spot where you're stronger for the delivery of the story and the sonics that you need or want to tell your particular story. So I hope that makes sense. It's a bit of a roundabout, random explanation, but I think it just gives you a really great understanding of where your voice is at all times, whether you're starting coaching, as you develop throughout your journey. You've just got this benchmark. You just can't head in any direction if you don't know where you are currently. Now, next up, I've got nutrition review. This is another important one because it's not like I don't want to tell you what to do. I'm not going to say you've got to eat this or you've got to eat that, but I'll give you an example of what I do. And now I have a history in exercise science as well. I used to be a gym trainer, and that was my career for a long time. So all of this makes sense on a sort of a more focused perspective when it comes to voice, because as I mentioned, the voice is just muscles and ligaments, and fueling our body or making sure that we're looking after it, A, from the perspective of giving it what it needs, but B, also being mindful around the nutrition that is so super specific to creating problems like reflux, silent reflux in particular, because you don't know it's happening. And reflux is where gastric acids move up past your esophagus onto your vocal folds. Obviously, acid on vocal folds, no bueno. So you want to make sure that you're just reviewing what you're eating. Now, I'm not telling you to cut things out. I'm just saying, think about when you are going to bed after a gig. If you're going to be lying down after having a big meal, there's a good chance that, something's going to move up past your esophagus if it's not digested properly. So the key thing is that you just either prop yourself up on a pillow or maybe eat something that isn't spicy or going to aggravate your digestive system before you go to bed, so that you're not setting yourself up for these things that are avoidable. That is all I mean. Now, for me, I don't eat flour or sugar. And that's for my brain. That's got really nothing to do with around the gig, but it definitely helps my energy levels. And my classic go-to meal, if you know me or have ever toured with me, is a Caesar salad. Man, that stuff, like straight after sound check, I gobble that down, and sometimes even have it after a show, depending on the timing. So make it work for you. But the main focus, aside from giving your body the right nutrition and hydration, is to be sure that you're not causing yourself problems with reflux, but also like having a full stomach on a gig. I used to be able to do that. I used to eat like fish and chips. Now, cannot do that. I need to sort of make sure that my body is fueled effectively and efficiently. But I'm asking you to just review your circumstances. Just take a look at it and see if there's anything that can be tweaked. That's where the vocal journal can help as well too. I'm so close to being finished, guys. You're doing so well having me speak at you for this extended period of time. And again, look, if I'm missing questions or anything, please pop them into the comments and I'll come back to them. Thank you for those of you who have come in already. I'm not finished just yet, but I just wanted to say, I see you there. Last but not least is the medication check. So this is kind of like the nutrition thing. I really want you to be mindful of what you're putting into your body. Again, I'm not saying stop taking your meds if you need them. I'm just saying go to your doctor and let them know that you're a professional voice user. Let them help you to serve your body and your voice in the best way possible. So very relevantly, I had to go to the doctor yesterday. I have been feeling so off the last probably few months. And I had, I'm always like, is this my larynx playing up? I kind of knew it wasn't, but I'm drama queen. So I was like, oh God, I'm going to go and get it checked out. Now, I kind of thought it was just a sinus issue, and it turns out it was allergies and sinuses. So I do a nasal irrigation, which is coming up down the track as well too, well, not every day, 80% of the time I do a nasal irrigation, I do a salt gargle, and I've got my new gadget, which is my Pure Mist. Again, I'll give you a full run through of that when we're talking about topical hydration. But I was doing all of the things. I even have a mask that I put on my face when I fly in a plane. I look like Hannibal Lecter, but I'm literally doing all the things I can to do to be sure that everything's in check. And it's natural, so that I'm not having to take medications. But the doctor said, you got to take some meds. So I'm taking some Flixinase. Typically, any kind of medicated nasal spray, you've got to be super, super careful with. And it's for a limited time, just as some are highly addictive. So the key point, though, for everyone is that they're very dehydrating. So you just need to be sure, and this is with most medications, that they're not dehydrating you. Now, the quick fix, because you've got to take the meds, is just increase your hydration by adding a little bit more water in than you perhaps have worked out, or at least hit that hydration target that we set earlier on, 0.03 times your weight in kilos. So that is what I need you to do. And if you want me to check your, there we go, back in. If you want me to check meds for you, can DM me, and I've got this little list that I got, a link that I got given to a list of all the meds, and I do this for all of my coaching clients as well. It's one of the things that we do. Now, it's not just prescribed drugs, it's also herbal or natural remedies as well that they can sometimes have an adverse effect on your body. Again, I'm not asking you to stop taking them. I'm just wanting you to be informed about what you're putting into your body based on the fact that your body houses your instrument, and every little piece plays a part in the big picture of looking after your voice. Whew. Yeah, there you go. That is a tip. I think I have gone over everything that I wanted to talk to you about, but again, holler at me if you have any questions. And as the weeks progress, these lives are going to get a little longer because we've got more to talk about. But I love talking to you, and I love answering your questions, so don't be shy. And also, if you don't want me to say your name, I won't. I'll just say that person right there. Like that person that posted a picture of their delicious curry after I put up the post about nutrition chickens, and I was like, hey, are you showing off? And he was like, no. And I was like, I think you are, because that looks delicious. And the main thing is, I was just asking him, is this something you're going to gobble down before or after a gig? Because that might cause you some digestive issues. He wasn't gigging, all was well. But yeah, my point is, I will mention you, I will not mention you. All I want to do is be here to help you get the best out of your voice, because I have really seen utilizing all of these tools in my own day-to-day practices, especially being on tour and especially dealing with some hay fever, season change issues. They have enabled me to really be able to deliver a consistent performance every single show, and that is what we want to do. So I'm always feeling confident that I have the tools at my fingertips and the techniques that I can utilize to feel confident about what I'm about to do. I want that for you. Is that what I'm saying? Is that I want you to feel that way. It's a good feeling. And there's always a solution to any old problem. And if you need my help, I'm here for you. So please shout out. Thank you for your time. Thank you for liking and commenting and on the posts. They're going to keep coming for another, 19 days. So yeah, I look forward to hearing from you soon. Have an amazing day. Look after your voice, and I'll see you next week.